Hi, I'm Jazz and I'm an alcoholic and I'm codependent. I work a 12-step program and I seek health. I am a seeker and a traveler in my journey. My past is a huge part of who I am today. My past tells me lots of things about myself and the way I was raised, and there's a lot of similarities from my past that I notice in my life today that I'm figuring out which things I can keep, which things I can change, which things I can get rid of, which behaviors and thoughts I could work on. And my past isn't who I am today. My past, even yesterday, is not who I am. I'm growing into who I am each day. I always have the next moment. I have tomorrow. I likely think that I have tomorrow, but my past doesn't define me. I don't feel shame today for the things that I've done because I'm a human. I'm growing, and it isn't who I am. Me growing today, being the best version that I can be, and just comparing myself to the yesterday's version of me is who I am today. And I used to do awful things. I used to lie. I used to cheat. I used to be a drunk mom. I used to rage and control and dominate and was extremely impulsive, and I can get stuck in self-will pretty quick. So looking back, I see my past and it tells me a story, and I know that I'm not those things anymore. And it isn't defining me, for it isn't who I am. And if I'm shaming myself today for something I did back then that's not who I am. I'm actually just shaming myself. So that says to me that I've got a behavior that I need to work on, because it has nothing to do with my past anymore. It has everything to do with that my present moment right now is I'm self-harming myself by shaming myself. And that could come from something that I was raised with or brought up with. Maybe I was shamed a lot when I was a child, so I take that same behavior and I shame myself now, thinking that's going to change my behavior. But the thing is that I have to believe that I have my present moment and I have the ability to help myself and love myself and make changes, and making changes with one small decision after the other, and learning how to love myself in the moments that I have, and listening to myself and listening to my feelings. So my past isn't me, and I'm actually working on taking all the little things that my past says to me and changing the story. And my past wasn't the nicest. It was lonely, and I had to fend for myself. There wasn't space for emotions. There wasn't emotional support. I didn't have the guidance that I craved, and I didn't feel like anyone was in my corner. I knew there was things I had to do, but I didn't feel noticed and loved, and I didn't feel understood. And so as a comfort, like, I would, present day, recently, I would, in some, actually not so recently, but in some past relationships, I would find people that would resemble the way I was raised when I was younger. And I would attract and find emotionally unavailable people. And then I would try to get attention from those emotionally unavailable people to right the past, to make myself feel okay in the present, to right the wrong. And so I wanted to be seen by unseen people. And I have been driven my entire life to be seen by unseen people because I wasn't seen as a child. And one of my caregivers took up a lot of space and was the center of our family. So there was some superiority created, and we revolved around that person, and everybody came second. And so there was quite a dynamic of hierarchy, and there wasn't any room for anyone else to have emotions. There wasn't safety. It was walking on eggshells constantly. And we just didn't have that protection from the other caregiver. And it was always fine to them. So we had to take bad situations. I had to take bad situations and say that they were fine when they were not fine. And then I have been getting into bad relationships with people that are not emotionally available. But I also was not emotionally available. So I had my past against me. And then because I wasn't emotionally available, I still continue to attract my past and start these heavy-duty relationships with, toxic or unhealthy people. Because naturally, that was a comfort to me, and I thought I could change something or do something and control something. I believed that, and my belief has changed today. I don't go into situations trying to control them now. I just control myself. And I can see when people are emotionally unavailable because I'm becoming emotionally available. I'm listening and I'm seeing because I'm now on now. And I did that with a program. So I didn't really know what, because one of my caregivers had so many emotions, I knew that sort of emotions were okay, and I knew what they were and I was used to being around them. But then I never learned to take the time to ask what my emotions were doing, because no one was ever asking me, how do you feel about that? Are you okay? What are your feelings saying? What do you want to do next? I wasn't taught any tools to navigate my emotions. I was in a powerless situation as a child, trying to hide, cover, forget, feel better, gain some kind of control from somewhere. And at a young age, that's when my control issues started, because I started changing situations and I thought, oh, this is how I can get through. This is how I could cope. So being a child, to my own defenses, I came up with some really dysfunctional coping mechanisms, and it led me down eventually that coping turned into addiction. And that was another road. But, today I'm more aware of just if I'm say cleaning the house too much or too long, sometimes it's because I'm not addressing a feeling, and I'll catch myself like, am I feeling okay? So unhealthy coping shows up in me in different ways. Or I'm doing too much at home and then I'll add another thing and another thing and another thing. And I've noticed that about myself, like that's an unhealthy trait, it's almost like I'm adding more because I'm not addressing something inside. So I've really learned about healthy coping and stuff like that. And I got to take a second to feel and understand what's going on inside. And so I can see now when the action, the unhealthy action is coming out, cleaning past the point of exhaustion, or having to go to extreme measures of cleanliness when I'm tired, or I could just go sit down, or I could just be with my kids, or I could just talk on the phone. I'll instead dive into some kind of obsessive behavior, or add too much to my plate, distraction, work, maybe staying in unsafe conversations for too long. Like when I'm not okay, it starts showing up in lots of different ways in my day. And it shows up, and then now I can see it and catch it. And I pick it out, and then I deal with it. So, I have to make myself sit down. I have to make myself be bored sometimes. I can't just stay stuck. I address what's going on, and then usually the external and the physical part that I'm trying to control, like always having something cleaned a certain way. Like if I'm obsessed about that, I think it's usually because there's something going on with me. So I turn it around, and I used to not be able to see that before. So I really have to break up those times when I'm in my perfectionism, or I'm doing things and I'm not giving myself a break, or I'm not resting. I check in. So my past is, I'm uncovering all of the dysfunctional, deep, dark stuff from my past, and it's helping me with my future, and it's helping me with my present time. So it's very helpful, this stuff, to look back, because it's telling me a story about what I'm doing now. And I have the choice to change those things, and I just do it bit by bit. And I'm forgiving of them for, everyone's just doing the best that they can. Like even me as a mother, I've got my hands full. I'm not perfect. I'm not always the best some days, but I can choose to be better today. Like I'm always going to get another opportunity or chance. Like my higher power is coming back around and working with me to undo these tangles. And there's going to be another opportunity that he's going to give me to fix something, or be gentler, or not be as angry. And maybe I can quit sooner when I'm tired. Like he's working with me. Because I know my higher power wants the best for me. And because I also now know that I want the best for me. I've developed that. I've become a priority in my own life. I'm a big part of my life. And I used to really discount that. And so, all of these things are happening together, and I work on them, and I'm aware of them. And so I'm not dwelling and talking about the past like it's part of me. It's something that happened to me. And it's up to me now, present day time, to change it and look at it, because it's not still happening to me. It's happening in my head, but the thing that happened is over. So I need to start picking up myself and moving myself forward as best that I can. And sometimes it's sloppy, and messy, and that's okay, because I have to dust myself off and continue on. it has also, there's good things that have come from this. I've become a really good parent and changed, my kids get to experience a different parent than the way I was parented, and certain things that I didn't get, my kids get, but they're also going to not get things that they could have had or needed. But that's not all up for me to write their story. My kids are also on their own journey, and I'm not their higher power. They have their own higher power, and I have my own higher power, and he sees the whole thing. He's watching everything. And I constantly have to give that to him, the plan to him, and take my hands off the wheel. But it takes, I've gotten better at it. My kids are, I'm raising them the best that I can. But every family's got some bit of dysfunction, some bit of codependency. So every family is a bit dysfunctional, and because we're all human, and we're all human on this earth. So I'm feeling less over responsible for everyone and everything. And I'm not my kids. I just show up for them as much and best that I can. And then I turn my brain off because I can go down the rabbit hole and think this is not good enough and that's not good enough. So I'm constantly, it's a constant process of letting go and surrendering, like looking and then doing what I can. So it's my present. I'm in control of my present. I'm in control of my body, and my body and my feelings, they tell me something. And when something has happened inside of me that's way long, that's not going away quickly, I get on the phone because it's likely something that's coming from childhood that's rising up. It's a trigger from somewhere else. And I used to get really offended when my triggers would happen, and how can they do that? How can they see? And it's really my own work when those triggers happen. And those are all the spots where I need to heal. And how else am I going to know about my triggers and where all my healing spots are unless my triggers are happening? So, my past, I'm in control of my present. So I got into a lot of my relationships resembled my caregivers. A lot of my toxic relationships resembled some of my caregivers. And so I chose partners that disappeared. I chose partners that didn't have a lot of stamina. I chose partners that ignored me. I chose partners that were obnoxious and loud and unsafe and unpredictable and untrustworthy. And then I got to play the victim again. And that was how I lived for half my life, was being the victim and trying to right the wrong and choosing partners that were like my past. And now, now I'm aware of these things and I work on these things. So it's going to keep me a bit protected from making those decisions in the future. And I forgive myself for having gone through those relationships. And I forgive myself for the mistakes that I made yesterday. They don't define me today because I move on from them. I make the amend and I let myself go. Like, I don't have to keep shaming myself for my mistakes. I just need to learn from them and do differently. And I'm going to get other opportunities. I often say to my kids, I'm going to disappoint you. I'm not a perfect mom. I do the best that I can. And when I talk gently about myself, they're going to learn to talk gently about themselves too. And I'm not trying to give them this unrealistic standard. I used to live in that unrealistic standard, perfect picture. And I'm just, the picture is whatever the picture is going to be, and I show them that I'm doing the best I can, so that they just have to do the best that they can, and listen. And I'm teaching them to listen to that little voice inside of them, and that they're going to get another chance. So my past helps me. I learn from it, and it doesn't define who I am today. I'm defining who I am today. I have the freedom to be me and figure that out. So thanks.